Aric was a simple boy. He lived in a small village, nestled between rolling hills. Life was peaceful, filled with laughter and joy. Then the war came. The skies turned grey, choked with smoke and fire. The once vibrant fields were scarred with trenches and littered with the debris of war. Aric's world, like his village, was torn apart.
Gone were the days of playing with wooden swords and chasing butterflies. Now I woke to the clang of steel, the terrified cries of villagers, and the ever-present shadow of fear.
His once bright eyes, reflecting the blue sky, now mirrored the bleakness of war, his childhood innocence lost amidst the ruins. The weight of the world, a world at war, settled heavily on his small shoulders. The war had taken so much. It had taken the laughter of children, the comforting rhythm of daily life, and the warmth of peace. Worst of all, it had taken people Aric loved, leaving behind a void that echoed with their absence.
In the heart of this devastation, amidst the ashes of my former life, a spark of determination began to flicker within me. I couldn't let the war take everything. I had to do something, anything, to stop it.
The constant fear and uncertainty gnawed at Aric. Every rustle of leaves, every distant shout sent shivers down his spine. The world around him seemed to be closing in, a dark cloud of dread that never lifted. He saw the despair in his parents' eyes, the exhaustion etched on their faces. Their once vibrant spirits now dulled by the relentless hardships of war. The weight of their struggles was a heavy burden on his young shoulders. He heard the whispered prayers of villagers, their pleas for peace a constant ache in the air. The village, once filled with laughter and joy, now echoed with the sounds of sorrow and desperation. Each prayer was a testament to their enduring hope, yet also a reminder of their suffering. One night, unable to bear the weight of helplessness any longer, Aric decided to act. He spent hours staring at the night sky, searching for answers in the stars. The vast expanse above seemed to promise a glimmer of hope, a path to a better future. He had heard whispers of an old sage, a man of wisdom and peace, who lived high up in the mountains. The sage was said to possess ancient knowledge, secrets that could heal the deepest wounds and bring about lasting peace.
Legend had it that the sage possessed knowledge that could change destinies, mend broken spirits, and perhaps even end wars. The stories spoke of miraculous transformations, of villages saved from the brink of destruction by the sage's wisdom, and perhaps even end wars. The thought of such power filled Aric with a renewed sense of purpose. If he could find the sage, maybe he could save his village, his family, and his friends.
Fueled by a glimmer of hope, Aric decided to seek out the sage. The journey ahead was daunting, but the possibility of peace was worth any risk. He knew that this was his chance to make a difference. Aric decided to seek out the sage. The path to the mountains was long and treacherous, filled with unknown dangers. Yet the thought of the sage's wisdom gave him the courage to face whatever lay ahead. He knew the journey would be perilous, fraught with dangers. The mountains were known for their harsh terrain and unpredictable weather. Wild animals roamed freely, and the remnants of past battles still haunted the land. The mountains were treacherous, home to wild animals and remnants of warring factions. The scars of old conflicts were visible everywhere, a stark reminder of the violence that had plagued the region for generations. Yet the despair in his village, the tears of his friends, fueled his resolve. He had to try. The sight of his friends' tear-streaked faces, the sound of their cries, was a constant reminder of why he needed to succeed. As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, Aric slipped out of his village. The early morning light cast long shadows, but also brought a sense of new beginnings. He felt a mix of fear and excitement as he took his first steps towards the unknown. He carried nothing but a small knapsack with some dried fruit and a heart brimming with a desperate hope. His belongings were few, but his determination was immense. Each step he took was a step towards a dream of peace. His small feet, more accustomed to the cobbled streets of his village, now trod upon the uncertain path leading up the mountain. The rocky terrain was challenging, but Aric's resolve was unwavering. His journey to find the sage, his journey to find peace, had begun. With each step, he felt a growing sense of purpose. The path was long, but Aric was determined to see it through. for the sake of his village and the hope of a brighter future. The climb was arduous. Each step felt like a battle against the mountain itself, as if the very earth was testing his resolve. The path was steep and treacherous, winding its way through dense forests and alongside sheer cliffs. The air grew thinner, and the sounds of the forest seemed to whisper secrets of the ancient land. Aric pressed on, his small frame dwarfed by the ancient trees and towering peaks. The enormity of the landscape made him feel insignificant, yet he knew his mission was of great importance. He had to find the sage. The stories of the Wise One had been passed down through generations, each tale more wondrous than the last. He had to find a way to end the war, to bring peace back to his village and his people. The weight of his responsibility was heavy, but his determination was unwavering. Days turned into nights, and nights into days. The journey seemed endless, with the sun and moon marking the passage of time in a relentless cycle. Aric's body ached, his clothes were torn, and his spirit waned. Each night, he would collapse onto the hard ground, his dreams filled with visions of his village and the faces of those he loved. Yet the thought of his village, the hope he carried for his people, kept him going. He could almost hear their voices, urging him forward, giving him the strength to take another step. He clung to the whispers of the villagers, their tales of the sage, a beacon in his own personal darkness. These stories were his guiding light, a reminder of the purpose behind his arduous journey.
Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I reached the summit. The air was crisp and clear, and the view was breathtaking, a reward for the grueling climb. There, perched on the edge of the cliff, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, was a small, humble hut. It seemed almost magical, a place out of time and space. Smoke curled from its chimney, a sign of life, a testament to the stories I'd been told. The sight filled me with a renewed sense of hope and anticipation.
With the last of his strength, Aric stumbled towards the hut, his heart pounding in his chest. He had found it. The culmination of his journey was within reach, and the promise of answers lay just beyond the door. He had found the sage. The realization brought a mix of relief and anticipation as he stood before the place where wisdom resided. As he approached the hut, the wooden door creaked open, as if anticipating his arrival. The sound was both eerie and welcoming, a prelude to the encounter he had long awaited. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the warm light emanating from within. The presence was commanding yet gentle, a paradox that only added to the mystique. It was an old man, his face etched with the wisdom of ages, his eyes twinkling with a gentle kindness. The lines on his face told stories of countless experiences, and his smile was a promise of understanding and guidance. Aric knew, with unwavering certainty, that he had found the person he was looking for. The journey had been long and arduous, but standing before the sage, he felt a profound sense of purpose and destiny. The sage welcomed Aric into his humble abode. The boy, weary from his travels, felt a sense of relief wash over him as he stepped inside. The hut, though small, was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold and harsh world outside. It was filled with the aroma of herbs and the comforting crackle of a small fire, creating an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. Aric, exhausted from his journey, poured out his heart to the old man. He spoke of the long days and nights he had spent wandering, searching for answers. He spoke of the war, the devastation, the endless battles that had torn his world apart. The pain and suffering it had inflicted upon his village and his people were almost too much to bear. He described the once thriving community now reduced to ruins, the faces of friends and family etched with sorrow. He spoke of his yearning for peace, a deep, unrelenting desire to see his homeland restored to its former glory. His desperate hope for a better tomorrow was palpable. The sage listened patiently, his eyes never leaving Aric's face. His gaze was filled with a deep understanding and compassion, as if he had seen and felt the same pain many times before.
The prophecy speaks of a time of great turmoil, a time when darkness threatens to consume the land. It foretells a period of chaos and despair, where the very fabric of society is at risk of unraveling, but it also speaks of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkest of times. It speaks of a child, a pure heart untouched by the shadows of war, who will rise to mend the broken world. This child, with innocence and courage, will be the beacon of hope.
Aric listened, captivated. The words of the sage seemed to echo in his mind, each one resonating deeply within him. The prophecy resonated within him, stirring a sense of destiny he couldn't quite comprehend. It was as if a hidden part of him was awakening, responding to a call he had never known existed. The sage placed a hand on Aric's shoulder, his gaze piercing yet kind. There was a strength in his eyes, a silent assurance that gave Aric a newfound sense of purpose.
You, young one, are the child of the prophecy. You have been chosen by fate to bring about the change this world so desperately needs. You have the power to end this war, the strength to unite the divided and heal the wounded. You have the power to bring peace back to the land, to restore what has been lost, and to build a future where hope can flourish once more.
Aric's eyes widened. The weight of the sage's words settled upon him, heavy yet invigorating. Him? A simple boy from a small village? The idea seemed almost impossible. Yet the conviction in the sage's voice made him believe. He couldn't believe it, yet deep down a spark of hope ignited, fueled by the sage's words. This spark, small but persistent, began to grow, filling him with a sense of purpose and determination he had never felt before.